Good morning. It's Pastor Patrick here. Hope everybody is doing well and hope you've had a wonderful week. You know, I was thinking if there's one thing that has happened for most people in the last month or so is that we've seen changes in our life's rhythms. And what do I mean by that? I mean, we've probably seen a lot of changes in our pace of living. Now, for those in the essential services, and first of all, thank you for all that you are doing. I want you to know that we are praying for you, and thank you for what you're doing. But maybe those in the essential services, you might have seen your pace increase a little bit. But for most others, the rhythm of our life has slowed down. You know, one thing is clear: if there's anything positive that can come out of this season that we have walked through, is that we'll realize that we can't keep living the way we did before. I've talked with several people who've said, you know what, in the last month or so, there's been some major life shifts happening, ways of living that have been adjusted. You know, I know even looking around my community, I'm seeing a lot of families that are walking together and they're playing together and maybe doing things they hadn't done before. And see, I don't believe in any way that this virus was God's will, but I do believe that God can use it to bring about his purposes, and that we will come out of this season better than when we went in. So simply this: it's okay to slow down. It's okay for us to rest. In a book that I love, it's one of my favorites. It's called The Life You've Always Wanted. It's by John Ortberg, and he talks about some of the spiritual disciplines, but one that he touches on is the discipline of slowing. And I remember back, maybe it was about 2 years ago, I taught a class based on this book. And I want you to just listen to a couple of the thoughts that came out of that book. He says this: he says, for many of us, the great danger is not that we will renounce our faith. It is that we will become so distracted and rushed and preoccupied that we will settle for a mediocre version of it. Now, isn't that the truth? That we, it's not that we renounce our faith, but you know what? Life gets so busy and we get so distracted and we're preoccupied that we settle for less than what God has for us. Here's another thought. He says, if we want to follow someone, we can't go faster than the one who is leading. Now let that hit home. What were the rhythms of Jesus? What was the pace that he lived at? Most of us are living faster than Jesus lived, and we see the results of that in our life. But if Jesus is leading, then we need to follow his lead. Many times he would have crowds around him, but then he slips off into a quiet place or into a solitary place, or he goes to a place of rest. You know, most of us who are in ministry, if we see crowds, we would be there all day. But Jesus knew when it was time to slip away. Look at this in Mark chapter 6, verse 30. The apostles, they've been doing some great work, and they gather around Jesus. In verse 30, Mark 6:30, the apostles gathered around Jesus and they reported to him all that they had done and taught. Then, because so many people were coming and going, they didn't even have a chance to eat. And Jesus says to them, come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest. Get some rest. So they went by themselves in a boat to a solitary place. Here's Jesus. He's saying, look, you guys need to change your rhythm. You guys need to slow down. Here's another thought. Jesus often had much to do, but he never did it in a way that severed the life-giving connection between him and his Father. I just love that thought. I love that thought. You know, sometimes I get so busy and we get disconnected from God in the busyness, disconnected from the Father in the busyness. Not Jesus. He always stayed connected. He said, I'm not going to do anything unless I see the Father do it. I'm not going to say anything unless I hear him say it. He always stayed connected. And he never did it in a way that interfered with his ability to give love when love was called for. As a matter of fact, there's a few miracles we see in Scripture, and they happened while Jesus was on his way places. So on his way to do things or to meet people, miracles would happen. So even in the midst of him having a pace, he always knew when it was time to stop and give love. You know, sometimes we get so busy, we forget to love those around us. As a matter of fact, we do some things sometimes at the expense of those people that we say that we love. And so it's all about slowing down. It's all about finding the pace that Jesus found. Jesus accomplished a lot, not by rushing. You know, we rush around a lot, and we accomplish so little sometimes. But he did what he needed to do, not by rushing, but by staying in touch with the Father. Jesus was often busy, but he was never hurried. Hear this. Hurry is not a disordered schedule. Hurry is a disordered heart. And isn't that true? That many times when there's disorganization in our homes and in our lives, it's because there's disorganization within. We need to take time. We need to slow down, pace ourselves, and find a rhythm, find ourselves in touch with God. Let me close our time today with a thought from Joshua chapter 1. And this is a scripture that I've really enjoyed. It's always encouraged me. But this is what it says. It's talking about they've crossed over the Jordan now, and that they're about to go in to take the land. But there was 2.5 tribes, the tribe of Reuben, Gad, and half the tribe of Manasseh. And they had already taken the land on the east side of the Jordan under Moses' leadership. But there was a promise that they made that they're going to help the others now on the other side of the Jordan to get their land as well. And listen to what it says. Joshua says, "Remember the command that Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you after he said, 'The Lord your God will give you rest by giving you this land.'" And then he says this, "You are supposed to fight. Help fight for your brothers. Help fight for your sisters now, and help them to find the rest." He says this, "You are to help them until the Lord gives them rest as he has done for you." In other words, he's saying this: you can't give rest to others until you find rest yourselves. We can only share what we have experienced. We can't lead people to a place we've never been before. And so I want to encourage us today. Take time to rest. Take time in this season. Your pace has changed. You know what? Maybe it's something that God is teaching us. And maybe coming out of this season, when we go back to the way things have been, that it will be a little bit different, because we'll realize that we need to follow Jesus Christ, our leader. He leads us not only in work, but he leads us in rest. Have a blessed day.